Wow, that's a lot.
And but like one's rated an 8 out of 10 and one's rated like a 2 out of 10. And they're just like across town.
I'd go to the 2.
I'd go to the 8 out of 10 if
I go to
could.
the 8 myself.
I go to the 2 just sure, but yeah.
Raise them up.
All right, so I just wanted to tell you a little bit about where I am and what I've done so far, and then you can ask any questions on things I didn't cover or that you have more information or want more information on. Then I've got a few pictures to show you. I didn't have enough time to get it all done because I'm in Belluno right now, which is in northern Italy. It's in the Dolomite Mountains. So it's very near, it's about 70 kilometers from the Austrian border. So it's very mountainous. It's significantly different than southern Italy where I was in Rome. And we've been like going. So yesterday was basically like their Independence Day. I didn't know that until the day beforehand. So like yesterday, everything was closed and people just celebrate all day long. So it's kind of like the 4th of July, only without the fireworks. So I'm up here right now, and it's been fantastic. So I'm staying with Romano and Angelo, and Romana is the second cousin to the Damasos, who are the women who funded this grant. So the Damaso family is from Cadore, which is a smaller town just a little bit further north even than where I am. And the Damaso sisters' dad and Romana's grandfather were brothers. And they all came to the States, and then Romana's grandfather came back. So that's why Romana's here and they're there. So she is a high school English teacher at a local high school here, and it's a little bit different than in the States, in that they break up their high schools kind of by area of expertise. So she teaches it kind of like a technical high school that does like electronics and computer stuff. But you could also go to like a humanities high school that would study like philosophy and the social sciences, or you could go to just a science high school. And so you kind of specialize in what you like. And so you'll still get a little bit of everything. So if you go to the science school, you still have to take a history class, and vice versa. But you take more of what you like. But everybody takes English till at least their 4th year. So they go to high school 5 years rather than 4 like us. So she teaches what would be like 10th, 11th, and 12th grade English. So today I actually went to her school and met with her students and talked with them. So it's very fascinating how their schooling is different than ours. But their English was very, very good.
Cheated on us.
Very impressed.
You cheated on us.
I did. Only once. Only one day though.
One is enough.
Yeah.
One time too many.
Yeah, one time too many, right? So they have their testing is very difficult. So they have written tests, and then they have oral tests as well. So like they're coming up on the end of their school year too. So both of her children were studying last night because they had oral exams today. So their daughter, who's actually coming to the States next year to study, had an oral exam today in biology. And it was an hour long. Like the teacher, you just sit down with the teacher and the teacher starts talking to you, and you have to explain to the teacher everything you know about whatever they ask you about in English. So she had it in biology, and then Alencio, their son, had his in, I don't know what class it was, but it was on he had to talk about the Mayans. So I don't, when I asked, it didn't sound like a world history class, so I don't know if it was like a cultures thing or what. So they have written tests, and then they have oral tests, and you have to pass both of them with a certain score in order to move on to the next class in the sequence. So it's interesting because it's way different than in the States. Like we don't have oral, like all the oral exams and things like that. So I could talk all day on the differences in the education because she's a teacher, so we've been talking a lot about how our systems are similar and different, and it's been very interesting. So they've been amazing. Yesterday we went hiking in the Dolomite Mountains, and they showed me where all the World War I battles were. So just like there was trench warfare in like France, they had trench warfare in these mountains, and they would like literally dig trenches in the mountains, and you can still see from pretty far down kind of where those trenches are. And then everything obviously froze. And then in the last few years, because it's been warmer than usual, the snow has melted back. And so they're now finding all of these World War I battle sites, including frozen bodies, bullets, weapons, and shovels, and the whole 9 yards. So we went up there, and they showed me all that stuff. So so that was pretty great. And then the food has been fantastic. Like meals take like 2 hours to eat, and they do them at least twice a day. So everybody's done with school. The latest that they go to school is 1 o'clock. But they go 6 days a week. They go on Saturdays too. The only day off is Sundays. But they're done at 1, and then they come back and they have a big meal. And I actually had to leave early to come talk with you. So for lunch today, we had this pasta dish that was like bacon and cheese and onion and butter and bread. And then that was the first course. Then the second course was this tomato and basil, like huge chunks of tomato with basil, and then there's oil in it, and then you put balsamic vinaigrette on it. We ate that. Then we had a big platter of fruit.
I can do this.
And so you just picked what fruit you wanted. And then after that, we had dessert. We had gelato. And then after that, we had coffee. And that was lunch. And the same thing happens for dinner. It's unbelievable. And it's like just so chill and laid back. Like they just
How do they serve lunches at school then? Like,
They don't.
They
They don't. No. So they don't start until about 8, and then they have like a break in the middle of their day where they can go to they can have a snack or go to the vending machine or something like that. But there's no lunch break. So and some days they have more classes than other days. So so for example, some students in her first hour, they just didn't have anything until maybe like 11 o'clock in the morning. So they came at 8, and then they were done till 11. So they would like do whatever they wanted to do, go into town or whatever. And other days they go like from 8 to 11. So or 8 to 1. So it just kind of varies, but there's no lunch. There's just like a 20-minute break maybe where they can get snacks from the vending machine. And they have like coffee, espresso vending machines in the school. So like, go up and they get like the little tiny, and they're like stirring it. I'm telling you, I'm coming back to the States a complete and total coffee snob. Like their coffee is so good. It's like it comes in, depends. So in the morning time, the coffee is mixed with milk. So it's a little bit bigger glass. It's like maybe that big. And today we had, remember I told you about muesli way back in like Germany? So today they actually took the muesli and put it in the coffee milk drink and ate it that way. So in the morning time you get more, but then like after after meals coffee comes in like this. It's like a cup about that big. It's not espresso. It doesn't taste like espresso. It's not super strong like that. But it's just very rich, and you just drink it like you almost want to put your finger up, you know, like you're doing tea. So they always drink this very awesome coffee, and then the cappuccinos are amazing. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go back to the Keurig. Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I get back. So the food has been fantastic, and I have to go running or I'll explode, I think.
Any pizza there?
I had a lot of pizza in Rome. Not as much pizza up to the north. There's quite a difference between north and south. So in the north, we've had a lot more. So we've had pasta and things, but we've had a lot of rice. So yesterday we had risotto, which is when you take rice and you cook it, but very slowly. Like you add a little bit of liquid at a time over the course of like 40 minutes or something. So a lot of rice up in this area. And so last night at dinner, rice and cheese. They like brought out this like a block of like local cheese, and then you would just cut off like a chunk of cheese, and then there was a platter of all these different jellies, like jellies and jams, and then you would just take, and they have these adorable little baby spoons. And like you take a little and you put it on the cheese and you like eat a chunk of cheese with a fork and a knife with different kinds of jellies on it. And at first I was like, this is a little awkward, but it was amazing. It was fantastic. So the cheese with the jelly, that was a new one. But I haven't had any pizza up here, but I had pizza in Rome a couple times and it was amazing too. It's very thin and crispy. So it's not like, it's not your $5 take-home pizza from Domino's or something. It's really thin, not a ton of sauce on it, but all kinds of toppings. So you could get things, lots of anchovies, lots of vegetables, lots of meat, so ham, bacon, things like that. So, what's that?
How's it like compared to like volcano pizza?
The only thing that's
Yeah, well, I've never had volcano pizza.
What?
I know. Well, it's never open. It has like the weirdest hours in the world. It's like open from like, 1 to 1:15 on a Monday or something. So you can't ever go. But it was super good pizza. It's not like pizza that you would get, even when you get like a thin crust in America, it's thinner and crispier than that even.
Is it like really like do locals eat it too?
What's that?
Is it like really touristy or like do locals eat it too?
No, locals eat it too. Yeah. And Alencio, their son, he's 15. He wanted to have pizza for dinner last night. But his mom, Romana, was like, Jake's had pizza. I just had pizza like 2 days ago. So, which I was kind of glad that we had something else because I was getting kind of pizza out. But yeah, no, they eat pizza too. So it's not just a complete, like eat pizza while buying postcards type thing. Yeah.
Oh man.
Where is this place again?
Italy,
Northern
northern Italy.
Like,
7
I
Yeah.
know.
with Austria.
Like,
Just to hone in on Valencia.
I do. I need the long into that too.
It was like about a 5-hour train ride. So it was about 2.5 hours on the high speed train, which was awesome. I'd never been on a high speed train. From Rome to Padova, which is a larger town south of here. And then it was another 2 hours on a slower kind of regional train. But on the high speed train, man, you were like flying. We were going 270 kilometers an hour. So I don't know what that translates to miles per hour, but it's well over 100 miles an hour. So, you're just like, flying. And it's so nice because everything is just like on time. So when it says like it's going to get in at 3:07, it gets in at 3:07. You know, it's not like, you know, sometimes in America things don't really run quite on time. So you can actually plan. The bad thing is if you miss your train, you're missing your train. Like it's not going to be there waiting for you. You know, you're not going to luck out and it be delayed if you're running behind. So it's I'm pretty far up, pretty far north. It was quite cold when we went up into the mountains yesterday, but it's pretty nice around here. It's maybe, today was 30 Celsius, so that's low 70s-ish, so it's pretty nice.
Did you hit Venice at all or no?
No, I'm going to Venice tomorrow just to take, I'm flying out of Venice tomorrow. I was in Venice a couple years ago, so I'm going to places that I haven't been to. But if you ever get over here, you got to go to Venice. Have you been to Venice?
No, I've been to Canada.
Also a nice country. Yeah, also a nice country. I've met a lot of nice Canadians on my travels, actually. So in Rome, I'll show you a few pictures in a minute. But the first day I got there, I just kind of so I got there kind of late in the late afternoon. So I just kind of bebopped around town and found out where things were. Rome's actually like a very walkable town. So I think I must have walked like 10 miles a day, honestly, when I was in Rome. So the first day I just kind of walked and like found where things were and kind of got my bearings. And then the second day I went to the Vatican, which was fantastic. Some of the most unbelievable artwork that I've ever seen. It's just, I couldn't believe that people had made this. You know, I mean, it looked like it must have been made like on a computer or something, but it was made by humans. So absolutely gorgeous inside the Vatican. And I went on a tour that took me into the Vatican museums. So they have these very extensive museums that have artwork from all time periods, and you could probably spend weeks in there, literally. I don't remember the stat, but it's like it's something like 2 or 3 miles worth of art. So like just all this artwork, and then we went to a couple other places in the Vatican. Then we hit the ones people know most about. So the Sistine Chapel, which was breathtaking. And I always knew Michelangelo was like a pretty good artist and a great Ninja Turtle, but like this was like the fact that he did that whole thing by himself. It's like almost inhuman, like that one person could create what he created. And I also learned that he's kind of he was a thorn in the side to the Vatican. So you can't take any pictures in the Sistine Chapel, so I just have to tell you about it. But like he started on one end and then worked his way kind of across the Sistine Chapel over the course of like 5 years. And so the first year or two, like people were really kind of checking in on his work and making sure he was doing everything okay. And that's like where, you know, the finger, you know, Adam gets life and things. But then towards the end, like people stopped checking in on him. And he began to become very disenchanted with the church, and he thought the church was becoming too focused on money and on greed and things like that. So he kind of did some things in the huge judgment painting that the church, that he knew the church wouldn't like, and nobody knew about it because they weren't checking on him anymore. And so when there was the great reveal, people were like very taken aback by what they saw. Like they were not not happy. And in fact, he got banished from the Vatican for a while. Like he was no longer the Vatican artist and things like that. Like he got sent away. He eventually got to come back towards the end, but he even put one particular member of the clergy that he really thought was not following the true teachings of Christianity, like down in the corner of the painting, like wrapped in a snake. I mean, so I didn't really know that Michelangelo
So salty.
was so like on the outs with the church for a while. But so we went in the Sistine Chapel, which was amazing. We went in the Raphael rooms, and that's where like the School of Athens is painted in fresco. And then we went into St. Peter's Basilica, which is massive. It's just massive and beautiful. Like all of the other religious places I've been, it's just so beautiful. So that was the first day, and the Vatican was very, very busy. So my guide was saying that since Francis has been Pope, so many people really, really like him, that more and more people have been coming to the Vatican to visit. So it's become like very, very, very busy. The bookshops, which is something I found very interesting, is that the bookshops here in the Vatican, you could still get like things about Pope John Paul II. So there's John Paul II, and then Benedict, and then Francis. And Benedict is the one who kind of recused himself and decided he didn't want to be Pope any longer, and that's when Francis came in. So you can get stuff about Pope John Paul, and you can get a whole bunch of stuff on Francis, but you can't get anything from or about Benedict. And my guide at the Vatican, she's a practicing Catholic, but I don't know exactly her political persuasions or anything, but she kept calling the Benedict years the second Dark Age. That like people were the majority of Catholics, she was saying, so I don't know how true this is, but the majority of Catholics were very upset with Benedict's, I don't know necessarily maybe his policies, but just his persona and demeanor, maybe as opposed to John Paul II and now Francis. So I found it interesting that like Benedict is still around, right? He's the Pope Emeritus, but there's nothing, like you can't find anything about him, so I don't know. It's kind of crazy. So then on the second day I went to the Colosseum and the Roman Forum, and Palatine Hill, and then I took like a walking tour of the city center kind of, and my guide was fantastic because she told us all about the architecture and the different eras and times and stuff like that. So that was pretty great. But before I show you some pictures, what questions do you guys have about anything? I feel like I've just been talking.
Did you get a ride on a moped?
Yeah.
I didn't ride on a moped. No,
Wow.
I'm too scared. They're everywhere though, like the Vespas or whatever. They're all over the place, but they like weave in and out of traffic. So they like have their own traffic. Seems like they have their own traffic rules. So like in the States, most places in the States, like you can't, like motorcycles and mopeds can't like drive in between cars, right? So if you have like two lanes of traffic going this way, you can't have a motorcycle drive in between, right? Like if you're driving, you look over and there's a moped going between you and another car. But here, they just like bebop any which way they want. So I'm scared just like walking near them. So getting on them, I don't think I'm too much of a chicken to do that. Yeah, exactly.
This is perfect.
No more questions?
No.
No.
We just want to listen to you tell us stuff.
What is the best place to have been so far, Tim?
What?
Lucas.
Oh.
Lucas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're-
Hey, Tim.
Well, I haven't been to Brazil, so that can't have happened yet, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think every place has been kind of neat for different reasons. I think maybe right now is very, very cool for me because it's like very authentic, right? So, like their family, you know, we've gone out to dinner, we've gone places that I wouldn't know to go. They're obviously, I mean, Romana's English is perfect. She was actually a translator for the European Union. She took a year off. She's been teaching almost 30 years, and she took a year off to be a translator at the EU. So her English is fantastic. And her husband and children speak pretty good English as well. So it's been really great because they can explain things to me in a way that I feel very comfortable, like asking them, like, tell me more, or I don't quite understand. And just, you know, the food and the culture. So this has been really neat because it's very much, it's not tourist at all. Like, this is a pretty small town. You get a real kind of like, there's not the postcard things everywhere. So it just seems very authentic, I guess. So
You should let us meet them.
Yeah, call
Bring
them
them up.
Yeah,
there.
call them up.
We're gonna say hi. Go do it.
it's siesta right now.
Yes.
I know, right? They all are taking a nap after we ate that humongous meal. That's why they
Like,
take siesta
them up.
nap.
Yeah, just,
Right? It's like, excuse me, excuse me. This is my class.
Do they talk with their hands like everyone like says they do?
Not any more than I do, I don't think. Like, they don't like you know, like da, 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 or anything like that. But they are a bit louder maybe than we would be. Like dinner tends to get very boisterous, right? In a good fun way. And that might just be them. I don't know if that's how, like, I don't want to paint this as every Italian family is like this, but they're very boisterous and they like to poke fun at each other, and it's just great because they like slide back and forth between English and Italian. So sometimes I don't have any idea what's going on, and then like the next sentence is in English, so I do. So it's kind of like I'm trying to piece. It's like a puzzle of like, what's funny? Why is this funny? That I'm putting together. But their son, Alencio, is learning English. So obviously he's fluent in Italian. He's very, very good at English, but he's also learning Greek, Latin, and French.
I can't even speak Spanish.
I know. It's like I was telling you before, like I am more determined than ever after after this experience to come back and learn another language. I already told my wife she needs to bring some stuff with her to start my Spanish lessons, because it's just truly, I mean, they're so forward thinking and knowing different languages, and you can just see their mind working as they translate back and forth. You know, and they speak two or three languages usually. Some, like Alencio, more. Romana speaks English perfectly. Like she even knows like slang terms, the whole 9 yards. French, Spanish, some Portuguese, Lucas, and a little bit of Dutch, because when she was up working in the EU, she needed to know some Dutch. But just it's so incredible to watch them, that it's really inspired me to, like, all right, come on, Zimmerman, stop being a chump. You can learn another language. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Oh, wow.
Anything about their schooling?
I feel like we're all afraid we're gonna get schooled when you start telling us about their schooling.
I kind of
Yeah,
want
I think they're better than us.
Well, it's not like
The entire
well, not better, but
in talking with Romana, like you know, every place has its own issues and things that it needs to deal with, you know. So they're currently going through or trying to go through some reforms here in Italy because they have, unlike the States, our curriculum mainly is set by the state level. Their curriculum is set at the national level, right? So everybody in Italy needs to follow the Italian curriculum, supposedly. But there's some major issues with how it's really being implemented, and then how the scores so they're tested at the end of they're tested very regularly, but then they're tested at the end of their schooling to determine their university. And so in Italy, unlike the States, like we kind of have unofficial tiers of universities, right? In the States, like if your grade point average is this and you have this ACT score and you do these things, you could get into, you know, the Stanford of the worlds, right? And if you have this ACT score and this, you'll get into this school and right on down the line. Here, it's if you get whatever the score is, you can go to any university you want to go to. The only difference being that if you get like a 100, score of 100, it's called cum laude, right? And if you do that, then the government pays for all of your schooling, which the government pays for a lot of your schooling anyway. But there's been some big discrepancies between like the number of cum laudes awarded in different areas of the country. So like in Belluno up here in the north, in the whole region, which includes, so like they're like the Venice region. So their like state capital would be Venice, like ours is Lansing. In their whole area, they had 7 cum laudes. And then in some place down in the south, one school had 24. And it's all graded locally, so it's not like when you take the MME, right? They box it all up and they ship it to somewhere, and then they score it and ship us the responses. It's all scored locally, so there's some real big discrepancies between like scoring. And so you've got, you know, this entire chunk of the country has less cum laudes than one school in the south, right? There's just not that. Those people in the south aren't that much smarter. Right, so so they have their problems too, right? So it's not by any sense of the word perfect here, but to go to university here, the government pays for a lot of it. It's not nearly as expensive as it is in the States. It's like 2,000, maybe 2,000 euros a year, so about $2,000 to go. The rest is paid for by the government. So, but it's they just did some changes where here it's 3 years for your first degree, which, as far as I can tell, will be kind of like an associate's degree, and then you have to go 5 years for what I think is would be like a bachelor's degree in the States, and then you have to go, you know, beyond that for if you want to get a master's or something.
well, it's so cheap not staying in school, right? Like,
What's that?
well, it's so cheap. I mean, why not just?
I don't think it's that. I don't know how much more inexpensive it is overall. I think that the government pays more of it, so you only pay like 2,000 euro out of pocket, right? But it may be comparable overall. But we were talking about, so they're pretty middle class family, and so we started talking about taxes, and they pay about 48% of their income in taxes here, and in the States right? The top income tax bracket, like if you make the most money, like if you make 350,000 or more, it's like 33 to 35%, right?
What
So
They pay 48%.
Yeah, what all do they get for that 48% though?
$2,000 a year college.
Yeah, but I mean, do they
so
get maternity and paternity leave and healthcare, or what all do they get?
yeah, we had a conversation about healthcare too. So they
Sorry.
they get their college is mostly paid for. Their healthcare system, like if they go to the hospital, like you don't ever get a bill for going to the hospital. It's got its problems, right? So they said, you know, like there are, if you want to go to a very specific doctor, that you might have to wait a long time. They have public hospitals versus private hospitals. But they said the care is pretty comparable between the two. But if you just want to go to a regular doctor and you're not real specific about wanting to see, you know, Joe Schmo MD, you're just willing to see anybody, like you don't ever see a bill, right? It's just
You go.
covered by your taxes. Their roads, I had a hard time explaining to them what a pothole was. You know, like there's not a direct translation from English to Italian of pothole. Yeah, but I was trying to explain to them like the status of our roads,
Did you Google?
because their roads are very, very nice. Like you didn't. Only one time did I ever see a road that was not in very good shape, and it was like we were on the side of a mountain and it was covered by trees, so it was like a place where, you know, is always wet, like it just doesn't get any sunshine, so it kind of like the road was a little bit cruddy, but it was not like, it'd have been like a normal road back in the States. So they take really, really good care of their roads through their taxes, but they pay a lot more taxes. Like when I told Angelo and Romana that like the average tax rate in the States for income was maybe 20 to 25%, they were like they're literally taken aback. They couldn't believe it, at how low our taxes are relative to their taxes. But you know, it's that old debate of you know, higher taxes, more services, lower taxes, less services, and people fall on different ends of the spectrum on that. You know, generally over here, people are falling more on, the more I talk, are falling more on the side of more taxes, more services. But you know, their healthcare system is not perfect either. You know, I mean, they've got their share of problems. So yeah, had some very interesting conversations comparing our country to theirs about social things. So
Is that still
Yo, flag.
What?
So we win.
That's the model for
Right.
the one thing that really struck me was when we were talking about healthcare, they couldn't understand why everybody didn't have healthcare in America, and so we got into this discussion, and what really kind of came out of it was this idea that to them healthcare is like a human right. So it's not like it's not something you get because you have achieved a certain position in society. It's something that you're supposed to get just because you're a human, right? It's a right that you get. Healthcare is a right that you get. And, you know, I don't think our country is completely at that point, right? I don't know if we all believe that it's a right. So Romana just kept saying, you can't put money before health. You can't put money before health. So I think it's that kind of mentality. Not that that's right or wrong, but that's kind of the mentality that has led so many countries over here to have a much more
Universal.
nationalized health system than we have in the States. So I don't know how we got there, but we got there.
All right, we got about 15, Jake. I don't know if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah,
for the-
so because our lunches and meals take so long, I have a few pictures to show you, and then they're in a presentation, and then I'll show you a few out of my iPhoto. So let's just see. So I remember when we left off last time, I was going to tell you a little bit more about Greece. I had gone to that archaeological site the morning I talked to you, but I hadn't had time to put pictures together. So I put a couple of these on there, and then I got a few of Italy. Jocelyn, did you note the difference in the color scheme?
I did see it, and I asked for blue though.
Well, you can't get everything. You got purple. This is the Spartan colors. Come on. The site that I went to is called Akratori, and it was this Ionian city this is back on Santorini, and it was this very thriving, very prosperous port city, kind of, you got to think what cardinal direction. On the map, it would have been down, but I don't know if that was necessarily south. So it was on the tip of Santorini, and it was really pretty advanced. And they had like I told you, sewers, and they had toilets that flushed. You flushed them in the house, but ran to a citywide sewage system. I mean, very, very advanced. So there was this huge eruption, and the ash came down and basically buried the city. So this is very akin to Pompeii, right, in Italy, where the town was preserved because of the ash. So this wasn't discovered until like 1967 or 1968. They discovered this city, and so now only 3% of the city has actually been gone through by archaeologists, but the 3% is like completely covered by a building, and like they're constantly working on it. But the archaeology is funded largely by the government, and the Greek financial situation is so bad that they haven't done anything with it lately. But this is this is a picture of the buildings. So these are like you can see the windows, and then this would be an exterior wall, and you can kind of see the interior walls. But like it was literally made into a time capsule, right? So it exploded, the ash came down, it filled in everything, and then it stayed basically how it was left for 2,000 years before it was discovered. So it's an amazingly good condition. And then the picture on the left-hand side, you can see what's left of this. That would be the sewer system. So you can see it looks kind of like a square hole and like a trench. So that would have been the street sewer system. It was actually underneath the street. So this would have, each house would have led into the sewer system just like, our houses do. And then it would have gone to a central location where, it would have been away from the city. So the fact that they had that back then was pretty amazing. And then on the right is a staircase. And I thought that was it's in like amazing condition for being 2,000 years old, right? So this was like a street that would lead up, and then you go up the stairs and continue on the street. But like I said, they haven't done any archaeology there in the last 2 or 3 years because the government doesn't have any money. So it's just kind of, it's sitting there as was or as is for the last 3 years. So then moving on to Italy, I had time to do the Colosseum, and then I'll just show you some pictures for the last few minutes. So it took about 8 years to build. A few things that I'd learned that was that the emperors after, starting with Augustus, so right after Caesar, lived on Palatine Hill, which is basically adjacent to the Colosseum. So Rome has like 6 or 7 big hills. Palatine is the largest one, and on the top of it is where the emperors lived, and eventually where some popes lived. But they had like a tunnel leading underground from Palatine Hill to the Colosseum, so they could escape the crowds and not really have to deal with people. And the other thing that I learned was that many of these ancient sites were never, like, they weren't protected. I never thought about it until my guys started talking about it, that they were often looted, destroyed. So like almost all of the metal in the Colosseum was taken out by the barbarians when that's what the Romans call them, the barbarians. When the barbarians came, they took out all the metal and just melted it down for weapons. And then the Catholic Church took all the marble and used all the marble in the area for their churches and St. Peter's Basilica. So much of the condition of the ruins of these old places is not just the result of natural things like earthquakes and floods and fires, but also humans, that didn't really think about history when they were making history. So they're in the shape they're in partially because of what humans have done. So this is just a view of the Colosseum today. In the last couple of years, they built a little portion of the stage, so you could see what it looked like where the floor would be the stage there, and then below it are the ruins of kind of the inner workings. And so I didn't realize that they had there were like 60 elevators in the basement of this place, and this is where the slaves, they would basically turn like a huge crank, and they would lift up to the floor through all these trap doors, whatever the next act was going to be, right? So if it was going to be, someone fights a lion, they would like turn the crank, and in the cage, it would raise up and come through the floor, and there would be the lion. And there were like 60 trap doors all over the place, and so nobody really knew where the next thing was going to happen. And so you can kind of see like each of those little like square areas is what's left over from one of the elevators that the slaves used. And the left-hand side of the picture, you can see how it's so much higher than the right at the top. So the Colosseum was built basically on two kinds of dirt. The right-hand side of the picture was built on sand, and the left-hand side picture was built on like limestone or something much more sturdy. So the right-hand side has really collapsed more than the left-hand side has because of the ground that it was built on. And then it's called the arena, and this was another interesting thing that I learned, because the Latin word for sand is something like arenus or uranus or something like that. And they had to keep putting sand down on the floor to soak up all the blood and everything. So the word arena that we use today to describe something like this comes from the Roman times when they would spread sand or arenas or whatever the actual word is all over the place. So it was pretty big on the inside, much bigger than, I don't know, I guess I thought it was going to be kind of tiny or something, but it was quite big. So this is you can see what kind of are the remnants of stairs. So this would have been at the very, very top. And so people were seated in order of their importance. So closest to the floor were, like the rich people and the senators, and then as you made your way up, it became, poorer and poorer. And then the very, very top was where the women would sit. So everything up until this point was men, and then the women would sit at the very, very top. And so this is kind of what's left of the stairs up to the section where the women would be seated. So very, very high at the very top. And then this shows kind of, this is the side that hasn't collapsed. So this is our best understanding of what it would have looked like back in 80 AD. So each of the areas would have been covered by a roof, like you can see there on both levels. And then at the top, you can see where it's kind of fallen apart. But that roof would have continued all the way around. So, and down at the very kind of bottom left, you can see the like the cross, the Christian cross. So this is the spot where the emperors would sit, and the emperors had boxes on both sides of the Colosseum. So as the sun moved, because this was an all-day thing, so as the sun moved, they would switch sides in order to make themselves not have to sit in the unbearable heat. And once Constantine made Christianity legal in the Roman Empire, the Catholic Church eventually put a cross here because the church thinks that many Christians were persecuted and executed in the Colosseum, and this cross is to remember that. Other people are not quite sure if that is the case or not. Like, they're not arguing that Christians weren't persecuted in the early Roman Empire, but they don't know necessarily if it happened at the Colosseum or not. And then we had to go to our 3-hour lunch. So I just want to show you a couple pictures real quick of the Vatican because they're just phenomenal. Yeah, right through here. So can everybody see that okay?
No.
No?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. So so this is in the gallery, the tapestry gallery. So you can see along the side. So this is like a 200-meter long room. On the side are all these tapestries. So these huge, basically rugs sewn to show scenes. And then the top is the ceiling that's painted. It's not a very good picture, but like, see how it all looks like it's three-dimensional, right? It's actually 2D, right? It's all painted, but it looks 3D. So absolutely amazing. And then this is the gallery of maps. So all, again, same length. The top is just, the ceiling are just all these amazing, colorful pictures. And then along the wall are all these maps that were drawn of different areas that the church had some interest or control in. And see if I can find, here's another picture of that. But this one is about Christopher Columbus. So this painting deals with Columbus sailing to the New World. And here you can kind of see it again. So, and then we've got I wanted to show you this one. So this is the School of Athens. And it's like, this picture, it was so packed in there, so you couldn't get a great view. But this picture is like literally, I'm trying to think of a wall in the school that's big enough to be the same. It's like the side of the gym, kind of. Like the upper portion of the gym, that whole wall is this painting. So it's humongous. And just such detail and history, like who all these people are, and if they're looking at you, they were actually alive. There's apparently only 3 people in the painting that are actually looking at you, and that indicates that they were alive when this was made. All the rest of these people had already passed away. So, so that was Vatican, and then there's one other one I wanted to show you. Yeah, so here's where I am. So this is up in the Dolomites. So it looks very German, So this area has been kind of gone back and forth between German, Austrian, and Italian control. But the area is like just absolutely beautiful. It's so green and so lush in these valleys. So it's pretty awesome, I gotta say. So, do you have any questions on anything?
No.
Okay. Make sure, again, your final needs to be done tomorrow. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, if it's not turned in, there's not anything I can do about it because it will be, I won't have internet for quite a while when I'm in the village. So make sure you get it shared and turned in. The earlier, the better, because then I can work on it in the airports and stuff. So.
Are you excited to see your wife?
Oh, I'm so excited to see my wife. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I'm really excited. We've been having a countdown going. So I've only got 3 more get-ups.
Oh. Safe travels and goodbye. And thanks.
Oh, hi, Mrs. Lincoln. I didn't even know you were in there.
Back.
She came, yeah.
She's a ghost.
Oh, wow.
How much time do you guys have left before?
Oh.
I'm just, we're just about out of here.
About
That much time.
That much time.
So June, we got again tomorrow, hard deadline and everything. It's gotta be, I know, but that's part of the thing you can work from home on stuff.
Sim, did you get my turkey reflection?
Okay, well, we'll have to see. Reached out and
Yeah, that's
jumped
nice.
right into the,
I can't
Those
hear
are
you.
nice.
good job. All right.
Did you do it since Tuesday?
I wouldn't trust him as
I
far as I
mean,
could
no,
go
he
No,
brought
I did it
in
Sunday
Oh, did he?
night.
Yeah, and I.
today.
Okay. I haven't graded things in a couple days, so I'm gonna do it tonight. So I'm sure if you turned it in, I'll get it.
Okay, that's
Okay.
good.
Done with that.
At least you got him.
Okay.
He said it was at home.
Bye.
I just really think the 8
All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Good.
I was gonna.